This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Schultz, and joining me on this day to talk about some big news for the Seahawks, I got Clinton Bonner, Adam Emmert going to be joining us, and we are talking about the Seahawks losing defensive coordinator Ken Norton Jr., fired by head coach Pete Carroll, and so now the search goes on for a new defensive coordinator. Clinton,
you said losing, like we lost him like it's a puppy or something like that, right? So, and I feel man to man, Ken Norton Jr., good luck and all that, and it's almost like a unremarkable 4 years, right? So it's like overall, I'm just kind of excited. It's like who knows where this will go next. So you wanted to come on and chat about it. I said, sure, let's talk some Seahawks, man. I can't get enough of this stuff.
Well, it is. I mean, it's big news because this is something that I think was expected. It was something that we talked about on the Seahawkers podcast this past week, that if a move were to happen, it was probably going to come about a week after, the season ended. And so we get through the wild card games. We get the news late Monday night that Ken Norton Jr. is going to be gone. And yeah, I know I don't ever like talking about dudes being fired, but I do think that this is a move that it needed to be made. I think that obviously it's going to be a move for the better, and well, I expect it will be depending on who they hire. And it sounds like there's several candidates out there. I know one of the guys that we talked about as a potential candidate was Vic Fangio, who was the Broncos head coach. And it doesn't sound like he's on the list quite yet to be interviewed, but one of the guys who is his defensive coordinator, Ed Donatel. And that's interesting to me because, again, it's somebody from that Broncos from the Vic Fangio tree. And the other guy that's being mentioned with the articles that are coming out is Clint Hurt, who has been coaching on the defensive line. And so it turns out he's also part of that Fangio tree. They were all Donatel, Fangio, and Clint Hurt were all together in Chicago at the start of 2015. And I don't know, with that idea, Clinton, are you intrigued by any of these guys, or are you just kind of waiting to see, who are they going to get so we can move forward and with all this?
Well, there's a couple of things on my brain here, Brandon. And number one, Clint's a pretty good name. So there's that. So like that's pretty decent that he's in the running anyway. Most Clints I've met have been A-okay, and I've not met that many. And I like myself, well enough most times. So that's good. And the other guy, Donatel, kind of reminds me of Donatello, which is also nice because, hey, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. So that's good. But to sit here, I don't know them well enough. I dialed up a Broncos fan of mine a couple of weeks ago, actually. Well, whatever it was when Fangio got cut, like 8 days ago or something. I was like, dude, like that guy's a good coach. What are you doing? And he waxed poetic about like how much he liked Fangio and wishes that he was staying. Which just, hey, it's the quarterback stupid type conversation. So I immediately hit him back up as well. His name's Chris. Good dude, good pitcher, by the way. And I hit him back up. I said, how about Donatel? And he's like, listen, just basically he's like everything that he's ever done is just been like prepared, solid. Like it wasn't like some amazing, overly gushing review, but it was simply like always prepared, always had us in games, always seemed to scheme well. I don't know. Like if that's it, then I'm good. Because we went through a lot, Brandon, of like, especially these like last year and a half of just feeling like we were not scheming as aggressively and using our personnel as wisely as I think we could with the amount of talent we have out there. It seemed like Ken Norton to me was always good to give us a average to maybe a little above average plan and then execution from his defense. And I think we need to be better than that.
Well, we do have Adam who is getting set up. I don't know if adding him in live on the fly is going to work with his technology setup, but here you are.
Not only is the technology setup all screwed up, this is a totally new setup that I just put up in 3 minutes. And Yeah, Brandon sounds like he's talking through a walkie from 45 miles away. Clinton, you're a whisper talker now because your mic is too quiet for me, and mine is blaring in my ears. So this is going to go great. Glad to jump in with you guys and discuss that. We are probably all happy to be good and gone of Ken Norton Jr.
Oh no, it does sound like I'm. Are you hearing me weird, Clinton?
Yeah. In the middle of my my last sentence, you kind of went all Optimus Prime on me there, man, and haven't come back yet.
Okay, well, while we're live, this is a great thing to happen while we're live, especially on the first time. Let me, let's see if you and Clinton, Adam, can do this while I restart this and see if it fixes it.
Sounds
Very nice.
good.
So what's up, Adam?
Well, I was more curious as to I caught a little bit of your feelings about Fangio there towards the end. So, are we overall pro Fangio or not? Because for me, if they brought in Vic Fangio, I'd be jazzed.
Yeah, no, I think, and again, you got your buddy Jared out there, right? So you probably pick his brain quite a bit. And also, I would say too, you dudes where you live in that part of the country, you probably get a lot more Broncos exposure than I just do, period. Just even local stuff and just the game happens to be on here and there. I don't get a lot of Bronco games. So it's difficult for me to gauge it. All I can look at for the Broncos is like every time they're on, it seems like it's a low scoring game. One, their quarterbacks have been pretty trashy, but they just, I don't know, they fly around the ball. They hit hard. They always seem to have solid defensive backs back there and a really, really good scheme back there. So, and we were talking about the Fangio tree, that there's actually quite a tree here, and it could be myriad options coming from the Fangio tree. But overall, for me, I'm just in the excited bucket. I think it was time for a change. This, I think, barring a terrible decision, which I don't think they'll make, I think we'll be in a spot where we use the personnel in a more effective manner. And hopefully that means also, I think, being a bit more aggressive, just not sitting down in those cushy zones and playing bend but don't break all the way up and down the field, no matter how good the DVOA looks at the end of the year, when they sustain drives because they keep getting 7, 8, 9-minute drives. Well, guess what? That takes the ball out of Russell's hands. It takes the ball out of next year, maybe Penny's hands and DK's hands. That ain't good either, man.
Okay, let's see. Do I sound normal again? Have I lost my Vaderness?
You're
as
back
normal
to me.
as you've ever sounded, and I've known you since kindergarten, so I'll give you that. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, excellent. Well, on that note, though, Clinton, it does sound like Pete Carroll is looking to get more explosive, if we're to believe the tweet from Adam Jude, who he's been covering this with Bob Condotta of Seattle Times, and he says the coaching changes do represent for Pete Carroll at least a small pivot in his defensive philosophy, per sources. Carroll preferred cover 2 this season because his priority was to limit explosive plays, which it did, but he does plan to be more attack-minded going forward.
All right. Well, I for a tweet, we'll take it, right? We have a lot of time to figure out, obviously, who they're going to hire, what personnel moves are they going to make with assistants all the way down the line, and then, of course, free agency and draft. But I would say for you guys, is there, what's the sense? Is it, where on the excitability scale, where are you guys on a 1 to 10? Just the fact that Norton is gone. Adam, where are you at, man?
Well, it's interesting because you guys talked about the Fangio tree there for about half a second, and I don't understand why you'd go for a branch off the tree when you could grab the trunk. Like, bring in Fangio himself. I see a lot of people talking about, like Brandon had texted me earlier regarding the defensive coordinator for the Broncos. I can't remember dude's name.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And I'll tell you exactly why.
Dude who flamed out in Green Bay. So nifty. I'd rather not go that route. Like, why do we have to always go like no name, like under the radar? Like, Pete's trying to save his job. So let's get after it. Let's bring in a big name. Either go Fangio, go Flores. And I understand that there were some personality conflicts down there in Denver or Miami. That's fine. Everything in Miami stinks. So I'm not surprised that he had a personality conflict down there. As far as Fangio goes, you mentioned our friend Jared, who's a giant Broncos fan, and he was of the mind that he definitely wanted to keep Fangio going forward. He talked about their defense and how pretty much the entire unit was injured, and he held it together with Band-Aids and, rubber bands, and made a very competitive group out of scrubs. And you can do that. And not only that, Fangio's track record over multiple teams on the defensive side of the thing is pretty stellar. So
do you
give
not
me
think
that all day.
Donatell had anything to do with that at all? He was the defensive coordinator in Denver under Fangio.
Oh, right. So Fangio's had success with at least 4 other teams, and definitely it was Donatell who flamed out in Green Bay, who came in and was part of the success in Denver. Probably true. It's not like he sounds more like the Adam Gase type of coach who ends up being a coordinator under at that point it was Peyton Manning and made him look good. Whereas Donatell comes in and is a coordinator underneath Fangio, who pretty much runs the show and makes him look good.
So do you but do you think this is like, so is Fangio basically Carroll in the sense that, there was some good text tweets today by, I think it was Nemhauser, talking about how like he believes that maybe Ken Norton would kind of, had room to run for a year or so there. And then once Carroll didn't see what he liked, Carroll just like took the reins back over. And that's when the Seahawks got better. And then maybe gave him a little more run at the beginning of this year. Didn't like what he was seeing and took the reins back over. So Adam, do you kind of think that the Fangio is that, is he similar to what we're saying about here, where Donatell equals K and J? Are they parallel to you?
I would think so. I mean, why would the head coach, who's a defensive minded head coach who was brought there to fix the defense in the first place, not have his hands all over that defense? Now, bringing somebody like Fangio into this organization, like, we're going forward with Pete, whether you like it or not, and that's okay. I don't care how anybody feels about it. It is what it is, and this is what we're doing. So if this is what we're doing, then bring in somebody that I think would work well with Pete. And Fangio and Pete definitely are of the same mindset in terms of their coaching philosophy. I think it would work out well. Now, if you're looking for a more splash hire, then bring in Flores, man. I mean, that's a guy who had a ton of success down there in Miami with absolutely nothing for a disaster of a franchise. And a young guy that after the next couple of years, if Pete finally steps down, now you've got a coach in waiting. That'd be the way that I would go.
I think that the most likely thing to happen, though, is that, I don't think Flores is going to be showing up. I wouldn't mind it, but when you consider that Donatell was the defense, okay, whatever Adam did just added a bunch of noise. So
okay, cool.
Stuff,
well,
Adam.
My tablet's about to die, so that's how that is.
Whatever. So with Donatell, I think that what we're going to get is a guy, who was Pete Carroll's defensive coordinator for the Jets when he was head coach of the Jets. So I think that makes
that was a stunning track record there.
They weren't bad. They just defending. I mean, this is again my side of the country, right? So remember these teams. They weren't bad teams. He talk about doing pretty well with not a lot. Like the early Carroll stuff, the early Carroll Patriots, the early Carroll Jets that one year, there wasn't a lot there, but they still got a lot out of them. So maybe not so bad. That's all I'm saying.
Were they good though?
No, but they didn't have to talk.
Why do you just want to crap all over this Donatell idea?
Because I just don't understand why you go for the subordinate when you can have the commander. Like, why?
He wants the guys that he's always worked with. He's always hiring dudes that he's either into the nepotism thing with his own kids. We got Nate Carroll Stan Club with with Clinton's name here on the screen. So he goes with people he knows. So it's probably going to be Clint Hurt, which he could elevate from the defensive line coach, who's also part of the Fangio tree. As I mentioned to Clinton before, it was Fangio, it was Clint Hurt, it was Donatell all together in Chicago. And I think so we're going to see either Clint Hurt elevated to DC or Donatell's going to come in because he has that history. And whether or not you like that or not, it's just the way Pete Carroll operates. And so it's what's going to happen.
Are we sure? Like after this year where it was probably the closest where his job has been on the line, that there isn't a mandate from ownership to change things? Because that's the only reason Ken Norton's gone. He would have held on to him for another year. I am dead certain of that. There's no way that Pete was just moving on. So he's got to do something different. So don't look for all the guys you're comfortable with. Don't promote from within. Go and grab a dude who can inject some fresh ideas and some fresh blood into this team. That's what we're looking for.
I don't know if it's fresh ideas, though. You're already looking at two guys who essentially operate within the same defensive philosophy. So he's looking to tweak his philosophy. And I don't think, unless you're talking about bringing in someone completely, Flores would be the guy who would be the completely different type of move.
The thing is, I don't think either of those dudes are going to take the job, Flores or Fangio. And the number one reason is I think they'll both get offered head coaching jobs. They're both good coaches. I don't get how either of them, frankly, got fired as head coaches. Specifically, I can understand how your time could run out in Denver, but it's not his fault. I mean, look at the quarterback. And then Flores, I feel like, did amazingly well considering the talent that he had down there, and somehow had winning seasons, got to the playoffs last year, seemed to have a team that really, really loves him. I do like the idea of Flores and then being a potential successor. That's super intriguing to me. I just don't think those dudes are coming in for an assistant job under a heavy thumbed head coach. Why would Fangio want to come somewhere where it's like, he doesn't really even get to run the things the way he probably wants to run them. Or if he does, he'll be like the first in a lineage here who really gets to have it their way under Carroll. It's still Carroll's defense. So does Fangio need to do that? That's why my brain says no, he doesn't. But Donatel, yeah, sure. Like let's see what he can do there. I'm not against Fangio. Fangio seems like a great coach. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
So usually when a head coach gets fired, do they usually go to another head coaching position, or do they generally take a step back to a coordinator position?
No, I hear you. And usually, to be fair, usually you take a step back to right. back to your roots, right? To prove it out.
Mm-hmm.
And with these two particular dudes, I think there's going to be plenty of openings where they're like, they could see that Flores and Fangio probably get a raw deal. It's just, they don't have quarterbacks. Tua is okay at best. And Drew Lock, they don't have a quarterback. So it's just, what are you going to do to those dudes?
If you're Fangio or Flores and you just went through going through two terrible organizations with terrible quarterbacks, which one of these jobs actually looks like a promising job? There's only one in my mind, and that'd be the Vikings. If either one of these dudes don't pick up the Minnesota job, they're going to a coordinator position. Do I want to go and work for the New York dysfunctional Giants? Oh, hell no. The dysfunctional Jaguars? Oh, hell no. The beyond dysfunctional Chicago Bears? Hell no.
But you got quarterbacks there. At least you think you have you got Lawrence, you got Fields. At the very least, you think you have quarterbacks there you could build with. So I hear you. Definitely not the Giants. We could all agree. Nobody wants to go to the New York Giants. They're probably the worst franchise in all of football at this point, which is pretty hilarious when you screw something up in New York.
All right. Before we get on out of here, Clinton, you did a poll up on Twitter, and I want to get an idea of what Adam thinks with this. This is an interesting question. With a new defensive coordinator, which Seahawks player are you most excited to watch going into next season? Number 1, Jamal Adams on this list.
Yeah, well, it makes sense that would be the guy that most people are looking for, mainly because he had all those sacks his first year and then didn't have as many this last year. I think you can get more out of Jamal Adams. I'm just saying, even this year without the sacks, I don't know that he was that much less of a difference maker than he was his first year. I mean, you get another DC in and you get 15% better Jamal Adams? For me, it's Darrell Taylor, because you bring in another edge rusher. If you can bring in a free agent that can really help take the pressure off Darrell Taylor and the others. Darrell Taylor could be unstoppable, and being as raw as he is, oh my goodness, having somebody that can really develop him would be phenomenal. He'd be the guy.
Yeah, I put that up there, and I kind of figured Jamal would get the most votes, and so far he has. We'll see how it all kind of finishes by tomorrow. And for me, I'm actually in the same boat, Adam. And the Seahawks was the Seahawks overload. What's that one called with Matty F. Brown? Overload podcast. Is that correct?
Or Overlord?
I think either way, but I think it's Seahawks, Seattle Overload, I think. But they did a good job in the last one talking about how they started to flip Dunlap to the other side and just let Dunlap just bull rush and not have to even try and bend anymore at his advanced age of whatever he is, and how that put Taylor back on back on the side that he probably is more dominant on. And that's pretty interesting. You know, and that was a late season evolution. So for me, I'd love to see what can a DC come in and recognize what kind of talent they have in Taylor and scheme to do what like the Cowboys did with like Micah Parsons. I know it's you know, different schemes, 3-4, 4-3, all the different ways you could slice it. But to me, similar explosive type player where, man, can we get that dude just be a havoc creator? Like allow him to go be a havoc creator and see if we could center around the defense in a brand new way. So that's why I thought Taylor was the most interesting piece there too, man.
All right. Well, really want to thank you guys for jumping on. I know Clinton's got to get on out of here. And you know, we're going to do a show for the main Seahawkers podcast feed with Adam and I. So stay tuned for that. But yes, thought we'd jump on, do some video, and see some comments here in the chat about doing this some more. So definitely something to do in the off season. And gentlemen, with that, what do you say we get on out of here with a Go Hawks?
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.